Here come the Hawks, the pesky Blackhawks. Yep. Hey, everybody. Judd Zulgad. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com, where I watched tonight the Minnesota Wild in Chicago at United Center lose 4-3 to the Blackhawks in Game 1 of their second round series against Chicago. If this sounds like a broken record by now, it should. 2 years ago, first round series, Game 1, United Center. Blackhawks beat the Wild. They win the series in 5. Last season, they meet in the second round, same as this year, at United Center, Game 1. The Blackhawks win that game. They win the series in 6. Wild hoping to avoid that fate this time around, but they get off to a bit of a rocky start tonight, losing 4-3. Game 2 comes up on Sunday in Chicago, and then in Game 3 they go back to Minneapolis. St. Paul, play at the X in St. Paul, obviously, on Tuesday. First off, I want to say this series, just as we thought, looks like it's going to be a fantastic skating series, up and down. Both teams want to go 100 miles an hour. It's fantastic. You'll get a little bit of the rough stuff here and there, but not much. It's not going to be that physical a series. It's a great skating series. Neither team wants to slow down, and that is great. Rotate a lot of quality lines. We get a lot of good hockey. It's going to be fun to watch. Good, quick, fast games. Tonight's game was an interesting game. It reminded me a little bit of the NHL mid-1980s in the sense that we had a lot of goal scoring, especially in the first 2 periods. It was weird because the players are such good skaters now that part of the game is different because these guys are phenomenal athletes and better skaters than what you saw in the mid-80s across the board. But nonetheless, we did see goal scoring, which in the NHL is not a given these days that you're going to see that much of it. Unfortunately for the Wild, the goal scoring was on the Blackhawks' part to start the first period. The Wild really looked rusty. A lot of defensive breakdowns by the Wild as the Hawks go up 3-0 after 20 minutes. Mike Yeo said he never considered removing goaltender Devan Dubnyk, and there's a good reason for that. Dubnyk didn't help himself, but he also wasn't the main guy at fault. You had defensive breakdowns all over the place that led to 3 Blackhawks goals, and then the Blackhawks come out in the second period, and they hit a crossbar, and Dubnyk makes a nice save early on, and you're saying to yourself, okay, this could end up at this rate, 5, 6, 7-0. This could be a Game 1 rout. Guess what happened? Of course, the Wild came right back and righted the ship and started scoring goals. Jason Zucker from Vanek made it 3-1. Then Zach Parise on the power play from Vanek again. Thomas Vanek had a nice game tonight, actually until one big mistake, and that made it 3-2. And then Granlund scored from Parise at even strength at 9:30, and we're tied 3-3. And Joel Quenneville, the Chicago coach, said timeout. I need to slow things down. It actually worked. What was interesting for the Blackhawks from their perspective is, while Dubnyk certainly wasn't great tonight, he also wasn't awful. Corey Crawford, the Blackhawks goaltender, and Corey Crawford has been a pain in the you-know-what for the Wild in the playoffs through the years. Corey Crawford had a nice first period, nice third period, but in the second period, the goals weren't all his fault, but he was shaky. And that's worth talking about because Corey Crawford played the first 2 games of the Nashville-Chicago series in the first round. He was lifted in Game 1 and then played all of Game 2 and scuffled a little bit, and he was benched for the rest of that series until Game 6 when he came back. When Darling struggled, his backup struggled a little bit in Game 6, or a lot, I should say, in Game 6. Got lifted in the first period. Crawford comes back in Game 6 and stops all 13 shots he faces in that game. The Blackhawks win the series. That was a week ago Saturday. And so Crawford is back in goal. But I will say this. There were times at the game on Friday where he was fighting the puck. There's no question about it. He's trying to anticipate where the puck is going. You could tell he's nervous about it. So are the Wild going to get, on Sunday, the first and third period Corey Crawford, or are they going to get the second period guy? That's going to be very interesting to see. Okay, now let's move on to the mistake made by Vanek. Vanek, I would say, and I've bashed him plenty this year, but I'll say this for him. This might have been his best game as a member of the Wild tonight. I said the 2 guys that I want to see engaged in this series and playing better from the first round against St. Louis are Thomas Vanek and Chris Stewart. Chris Stewart had a couple chances tonight here and there. He needs to do more. But offensively, Vanek, 2 assists, still no goals. But if he continues to play like this, like he did offensively tonight, he'll score some goals. But he also made a mistake on a weird play, and this is what led to the game-winning goal. And it was a backbreaker because it was late in the second period. So the Wild feels like, okay, we've tied the game up. Let's go into the locker room now. We were down 3-0 after 20 minutes. After 40 minutes, we are going to be 3-3. And a series of odd things happened. One is Jordan Leopold, the Wild defenseman, played the puck with his hand. And so Vanek is right there. His line's on the ice. And if Thomas Vanek touches the puck at that point, the play would be whistled dead and we would have a face-off in the neutral zone. Well, Vanek, it sounds like, might have thought, I'm not sure on this, but might have thought that if he touched the puck, the faceoff was going to come back in the Wild zone. So he wouldn't touch the puck, basically encouraging Chicago to touch the puck, because as soon as a Chicago player put his stick on the puck, that kept the play alive. Well, guess what? Vanek got his wish. Chicago played the puck into the Wild zone. The clock is ticking. We're now late in the second period as this happens. And Charlie Coyle, Leopold, and Vanek go into the defensive zone and all attempt to play the puck at different times out of the zone. It doesn't work. So Patrick Sharp of the Blackhawks, make sure I got that right, he picks up the puck and gets it to Teuvo Teravainen. I hope I said that right. Teuvo, about 55 feet out along the far boards with Dubnyk in goal, takes sort of a, it's not a terrible shot, flutters a little bit, but it goes on goal. There's some traffic in front of Dubnyk, although I don't think he was truly all that screened. But Dubnyk basically saw the puck, he said this after the game, at the last second. Puck hits the post, the far post, and goes into the goal. 4-3. That's your ball game because nobody scores in the third period. So an interesting occurrence of events there that lead to the game-winning goal. And now the question is, how does the Wild rebound? How do they come back? Is this in their heads? I will give them credit for this. I don't think it will be. I think one very important thing to keep in mind here is this. The Wild played terrible in Game 4 against St. Louis. And a lot of us said, uh-oh, this could be trouble for Dubnyk and the team. Guess what? Against St. Louis. They came back, they rebounded, they won Game 5 and 6 in that case. Mentally strong. That was impressive. Tonight, they're down 3-0 in Chicago. And this is where you can fall apart because United Center is rocking at this point. Well, guess what happens? Wild comes back and ties the game. Sort of a fluky game-winning goal for Chicago. They win the game, but as far as is this going to derail the Wild at all in the series, make them have flashbacks of 2 years ago, which they won't, but or last year, which would be possible? I don't think so. I think this is a much more mentally tough team. So I think pretty much the slate will be cleared for Game 2 of the series, and as I said, no series really starts until Game 3. So that's your recap tonight. Wild lose 4-3 in the first game of their second-round series against the Blackhawks. Wild hoping to get their first win ever in the postseason at United Center on Sunday. If I'm not mistaken now, the record has fallen to 0-7, 0-3 the past couple of years, and then 0-1 so far. So the Wild hoping to break that slump against, or drought I should say, whatever you want to call it. Wild hoping to break that on Sunday when they play Game 2 of this series. Judd Zulgad from Chicago. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. And always check back for continuing coverage of the Wild's playoff series, which you can find on the website. Appreciate you watching. Have a great night, great day, whatever time of day, wherever you are. Hope it's great.